Hey you, welcome back to another vlog, podcast, whatever. Hope you're having a great day. This is another one of those Car Chronicles that I'm doing. Not necessarily a sit down heavy talk, but just random things that come up in my brain. So prepare for the ride, because I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Let me lower the AC. Alright. Let's go. Where are we going? I have no idea. I have no idea where we're going or what we're going to talk about. Well, I do want to talk about my parents and how they met and stuff. So my parents' story is cute. I mean, it's adorable. So when I was little, I always heard about the name lechuga. And if you don't know, lechuga in Spanish means lettuce. And so I always heard about my mom, she dated some guy in, I think, junior high or high school. No, it was high school. And when she was 15 years old, and she was in California at the time because her parents moved from New Jersey to California for a brief period. I think it was like 2 years or something like that. They went from New Jersey, Vineland, New Jersey, to somewhere near Long Beach. So she enrolled in high school. And she started seeing somebody named Frank Lechuga. And they were dating for some time or whatever. Was nothing serious. It's just, she always told me that he walked her home from school and, they kind of like kisses and made out and stuff. All that cute stuff. And then did that for a while. I don't know how long it was. But at some point, her parents had to move back to New Jersey. And so at that time, we're talking about late 60s. So at that time, if someone moves, you're kind of shit out of luck without contacting them ever again, because there was no social media, no email, no nothing. So, when your parents moved and you're 15 years old, you don't get a chance to tell anybody to leave. We're leaving, sorry, gotta go, type of thing. And so he was all heartbroken and stuff like that. He really liked my mom. And so my mom moved back to New Jersey, lived her life, all that stuff. Met my dad, had me, met that motherfucker Ben, did their shenanigans, what have you. She got divorced in 2010 and moved back to New Jersey with my grandmother. Her grandma was staying with us because she was taking care of her mom in New Jersey. And so when she finally passed on, I think it was 2005, she came to live with us in California. And so I was elated because I love my grandmother so much. She called me Cielo, which means sky in Spanish. So she always called me Mi Cielo. And then I've always had a close bond with my grandmother. She's like my angel. I love her so much. And of course I'm her favorite because, I'm the first grandchild. So of course I'm her favorite. And so we had that special bond together. And I was always take care of her and take her to her doctor's appointments and all that stuff. So anyway, they separated in 2010. They got divorced a year later. Went back to New Jersey, Vineland, New Jersey, to take care of my grandma. For some oddball reason, she decided to, look up her old classmates. Classmates.com is what you do. I've done that before. See what they're up to, whatever. And so she sees his name, Frank Lechuga. And so she was curious. She was like, I wonder if he has a Facebook page. So naturally, she goes to Facebook. And lo and behold, he was there. And so she shoots him a message. Says, hey, is this Frank Lechuga from, I forget what high school. This is Lillian Gomez, that's her maiden name, from that time period. Do you remember me? Right? And it just so happened that not even, maybe like, it had been a month, like 6 months or something like that, that his son actually made a Facebook post, because he's the type of person that doesn't like social media. He never liked it before, not familiar with computers, what have you. And his son insisted that he should get a Facebook page, keep in contact with family and blah, 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 right? So it was just new to him, this whole concept. And so they message each other and say, oh my God, I remember you broke my heart, blah, blah, blah. And then she started laughing and explained to him, well, my parents moved back to New Jersey, and they started having a conversation, and then they reconnected. And turns out that he was living in Temecula, California, while my mom was in New Jersey. So all this time, he was very close to us and had no idea. And when he heard that, I guess he loved my mom so much that, they connected so well with each other, and he loved her, and he wanted to move to New Jersey to be with her. And he sold his house in Temecula to his son, and he retired, and my mom retired at the same time. And so when they did that, they got together. He moved out to New Jersey in 2015, and the rest is history. And they've been together ever since. They got married in 2018 in Vegas, and that was it. And that's how they got together. It's the cutest story ever, when I think about that, I was like, you know what? Life throws you stuff you never know, man. You never know where you're going to meet somebody, who you're going to meet. It could be someone from your past. It could be anything. Anything is possible, And when I heard that, it was very special in my heart, because Frank is totally different from Ben. Totally different. And where Ben was a narcissistic, arrogant motherfucker versus Frank, he's very down to earth, very, salt of the earth, what you see is what you get, with no bullshit, just like me and just like my dad. As a matter of fact, when I met him for the first time, he came to my house, and I met him for the first time, and I opened the door, and my mouth was agape. I was like, oh my God, he looks so much like my dad. And I was crying because, oh my God, he looked like my dad. And he acts like my dad, total polar opposite of Ben. And I could not be happier for my mom. And that's my mom's story, And when I hear that, I am happy for my mom. But there's a grief in that too, because when I see that, and I'm sad in a way, because I want that for me too, to have and they go everywhere together. They've been from California to New Jersey 4 times in a car, and they love to travel. I mean, they can go anywhere. They could go down the beaten path. I mean, they found a city called Uranus, who has the best fudge. I know, don't even go there. I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, a place called Uranus, and I forgot what state it was in. They found these obscure places, and I'm just like, oh my God, I would love to experience that, and just, and I know I will have that one day. It's just not happening now, damn it. Fuck. But I digress. So yeah, that's the story of my mommy. So I'm happy for her. She deserves that after all the bullshit she went through with Ben. I had no idea what she had to go through. He had 3 DUIs. I don't know what he was going through, midlife crisis or anything. I don't know if it was midlife. He was already in his 60s, late 50s, early 60s. I don't know what the fuck. But his problem was he would always stay out late in the clubs, hanging out, with the younger crowd. And on his 3rd DUI, I found out that they picked him up in front of a strip club. His car was parked in the parking lot of the strip club. It's how embarrassing is that? So embarrassing. And it's just, I don't know. That dude was but karma got him good, so that's all my concern. And it got me thinking to you know, the guys that have been in my life, it's not very good. Never had any good. Well, no, I can't even say Clint, because Clint was like, he did slap me once. I do remember that. He says he don't remember that when I talked to him in 2011, but I remember that, so not even him. And Chris, don't even get me started. If I tell you Chris's story and my story, I'd be embarrassing myself. And whenever I think back to that period of time, you know, I can't believe that I let myself become that. And it is grief too, because I just, like, what were you thinking, girl? Like, I guess, you know, I don't know about you, but at least for me, when I've been deprived of something for so long, and you finally have it, it's like you do anything to keep it with you. And that's the only explanation that I have. I wanted to keep that connection. I wanted to keep that, I don't know, it's frustrating, because I don't know about you, but when I love someone, it's like I love with all my heart, and you know, I would never forget them, and here we are, and they end up fucking me over or hurting me or whatever, and I'm just like wounds after wounds after wounds, you know, and it's not pretty and it's not healthy, that's for sure. But you know, it did get me into therapy, so I can't really knock it that hard. You know, it got me to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm so sick and tired of feeling this way, and I want to find a quality human, if they exist, a quality male human, if they exist, and that's all I want. I just want a simple life, and I'm just so sick of the heartache. So like, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm done. You know? And the last half of my life, I just want peace, happiness, abundance of love, and abundance of, let's face it, wealth. I mean, you know, I like to be well off. I like to be, you know, financially stable and be able to support myself and not rely on a man. You know, be independent like that. And for so long, I've let my emotions or my insecurities outweigh my potential. You know, because I know I'm smart enough, and I know that I'm ambitious enough, all that stuff now. But before, I didn't have that. And so it was hard for me to conceptualize a person like that, because I was, let's face it, marinating in my own shit, okay? That's what humans do. I just re-marinate in it. And then at a certain point, at least for me, it was like, okay, I'm done marinating. Now it's time to, you know, move forward. And what are we going to do to accomplish that? And I think I'm doing a pretty good job. With that. When I was younger, you know, I was so focused. Well, not focused, but like, I guess because I had a lack of love in my life, that I was looking for that. Not caring about the consequences, not caring about, you know, okay, well, what were we going to do after you found love? I don't know. Like, say, for instance, my high school boyfriend, Clint, you know, he had to move to Arizona after graduation of high school, and I just moved with him. Because I wanted to, you know, continue that. Someone who loved that awkward little girl, you know, awkward, lonely little girl, lost little girl, and I didn't lose it. And so I moved with him, and it was fun while it lasted, but my parents were like, don't you want to go to college and do something with your life? I'm like, okay. And so I did that. I moved back after August, I think. August was when I moved back, yeah. Because I was starting school in September of 95, college. Did I go briefly, off and on? There again, I was like sad about losing Clint. And we tried to keep in contact for maybe like 3 or 4 months afterwards, but like the distance was like too much at that time. So that ended, and that devastated me, of course. And so I went to school part-time and partied full-time. That's what was my life for the longest time. And I was naive and heartbroken, and people took advantage of me and at that time, and it's not a time period where I look fondly on. Believe me, I get embarrassed when I think about that time that I let it go for so long. And there again, I didn't know better. You know, I was just a broken little girl. I felt so bad for her. Looking back at her now, I feel so bad for her because she deserved so much better. She deserved everything, and she didn't give it to herself, or nobody gave it to her. You know, all they did was took advantage of her naivete and took advantage of her huge heart and just smashed it into smithereens without thinking twice. And so when they did that, her self-esteem was like went all the way down. So she didn't think much of herself. Hence, that's why she got involved with the alcoholic marriage. Because I guess he offered her an emotional distance that she was comfortable with, because she didn't want anybody to get really close to her, because she was afraid of getting hurt. And so her husband never really got in touch with her core, or never really paid attention to her in the way that she didn't even know she wanted at that time. So because she was used to it from her father and her mother, the emotional unavailability that she was used to growing up. And so she found it in various people that she dated and her husband. But then after a while, after therapy, she wanted more, you know. And also she didn't want people to get close to her, because the one figure in her life was taken from her so abruptly. And so that caused her even more fear of people getting close to her emotionally. And so that caused even more distance from. So she didn't trust. I don't trust people. So it's very hard for me to trust people. Very, very hard for me. Unless I see that you're a cool person and we have a lot in common, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I can calm down now. Okay, and now we got a little rapport going. Then I see it, and I'm like, okay, cool. Keep showing me, you know, that you're, you know, trustworthy, whatever, supportive and stuff, and then I'll continue, you know. But if they don't show me anything, like communication, caring, compassion, whatever, then I'm gonna be like, I don't trust them. I go off of vibes now. I'm a very intuitive person and very empathic, so I feel things on a deep level. And so, and I can read body language like that. Like, I can tell when you're in a bad mood just by looking at your body language or hearing the things that you say. If I know you for a certain amount of time, I can tell right quick, because I was brought up in a chaotic household, so I was used to reading the writing on the wall or reading the room or what have you, because I was so used to it as a child. Because if I didn't, then I would get hit or, you know. yelled at or stuff like that. So I always had a defense mechanism like that, you know. That's part of my PTSD. So I can read body language like that. I can read tone like that. Like, you know, if I know you for a certain X amount of time, then I can read your tone and I can read your body language, and I know that, you know, okay, to step off, back off, or whatever, you know. So I'm very good at that. So going back to after therapy, you know, I wanted that connection. I wanted that person be close to me. I wanted that closeness. I wanted that, you know, camaraderie. I wanted that friendship, you know, that I never got from any of my other relationships. So when I found it in Chris, I ignored every other flag there was. I ignored his laziness. I ignored his immaturity. I ignored his pathological lying, all that, just because he gave me the attention that I needed and that I was sorely lacking. And that's very dangerous, very. Not only for my emotional being, but for my physical being too. You know, I don't want to talk about it because it's embarrassing. You know, it paints me in a bad light. But I want to preface in saying that I didn't know better at that time. I had no therapy behind me. You know, I was a complete mess. Fucking mess. Emotionally, all that stuff. I had not dealt with anything. And this is already 2015. So I hadn't dealt with my childhood trauma. I hadn't dealt with my dad's unaliving. I hadn't dealt with all that stuff, you know. And so I didn't know better, and I had to give myself grace because I didn't know better. But it's still hard for me to do that. It's still hard for me to forgive myself because I put myself in that situation. I have nobody else to blame but me. But I didn't know better. So I actually physically moved out of my house after the whole assault thing, and I started seeing Chris and stuff like that. Well, actually, because he told me he had a job. He told me he had a job, and I was like, okay, cool. So we'll start looking at places and stuff like that. And so in the meantime, I wanted to get out of the house so badly that I moved out, and it turned out he didn't have a job. Yeah, so I had to move back in, and then when I moved back in, he had gotten sick. He almost died on me, actually. He had sepsis. He had a ruptured ulcer, probably from the fucking lying he was doing and all this fucking stress. So the ulcer ruptured. He had sepsis. He was in the hospital on a ventilator, on a breathing tube. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital taking care of him. I used to be a CNA, so I was used to taking care of patients and what have you. So I stayed at his mother's house at this point in Moreno Del Rey, in LA. And so for 2 weeks I took care of. In 2 weeks I stayed at the hospital in the same room in a little cot, just supporting him. I actually saw when because they had to open up his stomach, and so suck out all the bad stuff and put sponges in. I saw that physically because I was holding his hand while they were doing it, while they were putting the sponges in his stomach. I actually hold his hand, and a lot of sleepless nights and all that stuff. And then he came home eventually. It was touch and go for a while. I didn't think he was going to make it at one point. And so that was very, very scary. Because here was somebody that I loved so, so deeply. And I was at risk of losing him physically. So So he moved, or not moved, he went back home, and then I stayed 2 months afterwards, just taking care of him, cleaning his wounds and bandages and draining his drains and all that stuff, cooking for him and stuff. So for 2 months I took care of him. I was his nurse, basically. At that point in time, this was in June of 2017, Danielle was still in Riverside. And so she called me on the phone saying, because she had met some new dude, which I didn't really approve of because they were heading way too fast, in my opinion. They met on Tinder and then they moved in with each other like a month later. I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, girl? But I digress. But I supported her, that's what she wanted, and she was crazy about him, and I was like, okay, girl, just be careful, you never know. And of course she didn't listen to me, but she was my best friend. I supported her. I loved her anyway. So she calls me on the phone while I was in LA, and she was like, hey, I'm driving to your house. I want you to meet my new boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, girl, I'm here taking care of Chris. He almost died on me, blah, blah. I told her the whole story. And she was like, oh, okay, well, I'll see you when you get home. 2 months, like 3 weeks later or something like that, I finally get to go home. Because my car was parked at the Metrolink train station. So my car was parked for 2 months straight. And I called them periodically, let them know, hey, I had an emergency, my car's parked there, just keep an eye on it. They were really cool. As long as I, call them and say, hey, I'm planning on coming home at X amount of time, like, okay, no worries, we'll keep your car in the parking lot. I know, it was an emergency, So, I get back to the Metrolink station. This was like June 20th or something like that. So we got back to the metro station. Chris drove me. He was able to drive at that point, so he drove me back. Got my car, and then we were hungry, so we stopped at a fast food restaurant. Got burgers and fries and stuff. And he was ordering up in the front, right? So I'm at the booth looking at my phone like you do, scroll your phone or whatever. So I see a Facebook page from Danielle's mom post. I see a post from her. It said something like, it's with a heavy heart that I announced that, Danielle passed away on June 17th. Blah, 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 blah. I read that. I dropped my phone immediately and I started crying. Like, it was like full-on bawling in front of everybody at the restaurant. And like, I was almost screaming, but I was, kept my hands in my mouth to stop from screaming. And I was shaking and I was crying, and Chris ran up to me and goes, what's wrong? What's going on? And I kept saying, it's not true, it's not true. And then he finally read the post, and then he was just holding me, and I was like crying, and I just could not control it. And in front of everybody was staring at me, and I just broke down. I don't know how long it was, maybe like, I don't know, it felt like an hour to me, but he was just holding me and trying to keep me from shaking really bad. So that's how I found out that Danielle died. Dude, what are you doing? How rude. You moved on me. I'm gonna pull over and adjust you because you're getting on my nerves. You gotta behave now. I just told this horrific story. Now I'm gonna pull over and adjust you. This is real life, people. This is not like a studio production or whatever. This is raw. This is real. And this is a fucking pain in the ass. Wait. Well, after about talking to Danielle, her song came on the radio, which is freaky. It's Butterfly by Crazy Town. She loved that song. So, hi Danny. That was her nickname, Danny. So yeah, now that just freaked me out right there. Like, whoa, that was crazy. I was just talking about her, and then her song comes on the radio. Ooh. Do you guys believe in that stuff? Do you like believe in signs and shit like that? Because I totally do. I believe in signs, and like, you know, not all the time, but you know, on occasion I'm like, there's always a possibility. Let's just say that. I'm not the type that shoot it down right. Oh, absolutely not. That's fucking bullshit. No. There's a possibility. And I was just talking about her, and her song came on the radio. So I'm just saying, you know. I mean, I don't believe in coincidences. I really don't. That's just me, though. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe you think it's bullshit. Maybe. I don't know. Anything is possible. So while I was taking care of Chris, you know, his mom lived in a beautiful area. It was on the water. It was Marina del Rey, and you know, it was a richy area, and we lived right on the marina where the boats are. So if you go on her balcony, you can see all the boats there, and it was beautiful, and it was like, you know, a townhouse, which I always wanted to own. And I'm looking at that like, you know, goddamn, you know, I want this for myself. I want to be able to live a life where I can go on my balcony and look at boats and the marina. You know, anything to do with water, I'm like there. I'm an Aquarius, so of course I love the water. So for me, it was like, I want to someday accomplish my career or whatever with having enough money to afford my own townhouse like that on the water if I wanted to, you know. So I always had that in my spirit. I always had that in my heart, you know. After the therapy and stuff like that, I had the courage to go after what I want. I never had that before, ever. I never had ambitions. I never had goals. I never had nothing. The only goal I had was to be loved, because, you know, I lacked love. So, of course, I want that. Anybody wants that. But when it came to, like, careers and stuff like that, I never did. Until I saw what I wanted and realized that I was the only one who was going to do it. And Chris was never going to do it. You know, he was too comfortable in his dysfunction. Or his whatever. To accomplish anything as far as any goals or anything like that. But I always knew that he was a good person deep down in his heart and his soul. See, my problem was, I think, a lot of girls' problems is we see the potential, and so we fall in love with that potential. And that's exactly what I did. I saw his potential right away. You know, he's a caring, compassionate person. He's funny. And so, but he just didn't have the strength within himself to realize that he can accomplish what he wants. And he does have the smarts and the intelligence. He just needed to have faith in himself. Believe me, I had enough faith for him and me. Because I tried to get him to have goals and ambition, and always encouraging, and I even wrote his damn resume. Just trying to, get him to, like, can you just, like, go fly? Fly, Robin, fly. But he didn't want to fly, so after a while, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Time to focus on me. And I did that after Danielle passed away, because I realized how fragile life was. I knew that if my bestie can just be taken like that. I mean, I already knew that because my dad was taken like that, but she was my actual best friend. I saw her every single day. Well, not every single day, but I saw her on a regular basis. We had a bond together, known each other since we were girls. And so it was a different relationship versus my dad. So I had a closer relationship to Danielle than versus my dad. Not to say that I didn't love my dad any less or any, no, absolutely not. It was just the fact that, because he lived in Maryland, my best friend lived in the same town I did. So, of course, we formed that bond and all that stuff. So, for me, it was more horrific when my best friend died. To me, it was like, fuck. She was taken like that, and she had so many dreams. She had 2 boys. One boy was not even 10, or maybe he was 10. And David was like already 19, 20, around there. And she always wanted a country house. We would always talk about this country house that she wanted. And I remember those things, and now she's no longer here. And that hurt me deeply. And that made me realize, fuck, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing to accomplish all the things I wanted to? All the things I want. I want to travel. I want to be established in a career. I want to be able to afford nice things. Be well off. That's what I want. And up to that point, I didn't do anything to accomplish that. I didn't even move forward in that regard. But after she passed away, that made me realize, shit, I need to start getting serious. And so that's exactly what I did. I want to go back, though, because I do want to say part of grief. After she passed away on June 17th, my cousin, who I'm very close to, not as close as I was to her, that's another story for a different time, but she has a best friend, Ellen, and Ellen and I have gotten really close, I will tell that story at a later time, but so all 3 of us used to hang out together and go out places and whatnot. In August, and I know she didn't do it on purpose or anything like that, get back at me. I know that in my brain, okay? She went to Puerto Rico with her best friend in August of that same year. And that devastated me. That hurt me to my core. Because she was able to do that with her best friend and I wasn't. Because mine had gone. I couldn't be happy for her. I was jealous and I was very, very sad. I just couldn't muster the happiness that she deserved over a trip they already planned before she had passed away. But to me, in that moment, was so devastating and so hurtful that nobody understood that. And it hurt me to know that nobody understood that and she couldn't understand that. Of course she can't understand that. She never had that before. How could she understand that? How can she supervise? How can she supervise? No, not supervise. Sympathize. Jeez. How could she sympathize with that when she never had it in her life? She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea. So I had to deal with that too. I didn't blame her, but I wasn't happy for her. I was sad because she got to do that with her best friend and I couldn't because she was gone. It was just a thing that you realize that things that you realize in life that you have no control over, and you just have to roll with the punches, and you just have to realize that that's how it is. That's life. And how are you going to deal with it? How are you going to deal with seeing somebody go with their best friend to Puerto Rico or a trip after you just lost your best friend? Are you going to let that ruin you, like, completely? Or are you going to feel it, grieve it, and then let it go? You have to ask yourself that. It's not good being, like I said earlier, marinating in it. It's not good for you, physically or mentally. It's just going to keep dragging you down. And the more things that you marinate, it's just going to keep going and going and going and going until you lose yourself. You lose your identity and you lose, well, who am I? Because I'm marinating on all this bullshit. But who am I deep down in my core? What do I want? So those are hard questions that I ask myself. So after I got over the pain of that, well, not over it, you never get over it, but you know what I mean. Not so intense, I should say. Not so intense. Because you never ever get over it. You never ever get over a loss. Ever. It will be part of your life like a missing limb. Like if I got my arm chopped off, I will live with that for the rest of my life. Exactly what grief is. You're losing a limb. But how are you going to survive without a missing limb? That's the key. That's grief. Okay, my arm is gone. My arm is chopped off. Okay, so for the rest of my life, how am I going to live with my arm chopped off? Am I going to let it stop me from experiencing life, the beautiful moments that life has? Am I going to let it become my identity? Well, I'm a armless freak. So I guess, I'm an armless freak. Huh? That's my identity. What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna see it and recognize it and be like, okay, I lost the limb. That sucks. I grieved it. It devastated me to my core. How do we move forward from your devastation? So that's what you got to ask yourself. How do you move forward in your devastation? And what are the next steps to accomplish that? Some people go to therapy, and that's exactly what I did. I was in therapy. So she gave me certain tools to use when I feel so overwhelmed, when my emotions get the best of me. And for a woman, that's every month. So, what are the tools that I need to do when I start freaking out and my mind starts going on the hamster wheel over and over and over again? for me, personally, this is how I deal with it. I recognize it, and I say, stop. And I don't say it internally. Of course, I'm by myself now, so I could talk to myself. What helps me is saying it out loud. Like, stop. What are you doing? We've already dealt with this before. Stop spiraling out of control. It's not healthy for you, and you need to keep moving on. If that doesn't work, then my always go-to is music. Hello. My go-to is music, and so I listen to my music and I get lost in the words and the visualizations that I have, dancing and all that stuff. Better times. Sometimes I listen to horrifically sad music to get me over it. That's just how I am. Maybe you're different. Maybe you listen to happy music. But for me, I listen to like sad songs that align to what my emotions are at that time. Like, it could be angry music, like Linkin Park. That whole Linkin Park Meteora CD saved me from my marriage spiraling out of control, because I used to listen to it like constantly. That was like my saving grace right there. But I digress. So whatever you need to do to get out of your funk and get out of your marinating, because we don't want to marinate. Marinating is not cool, you know. So, and I want you to remember that's not easy. It's not fucking easy. It's fucking hard as shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, this is raw, this is real, this is reality, and it's not easy. It is not fucking easy. You're gonna work hard at it. You have to work hard on it. But it's your determination and it's your willingness to get out of the marinating. You can let the marinating ruin your life, ruin your potential, or you can get out of it and start moving forward. It's up to you. You know? And it's up to all of us. Whatever you're dealing with grief-wise, whatever it is, you know, lost opportunity, loss of your identity, loss of your youth, loss of anything, frankly. What are you going to do? So that's a question. What are you going to do? For me right now, is keep moving forward. Keeping my goals in my mind. Okay, this is a goal I want to meet, and I met it. Speaking of goals, I met one goal already, which I knew that I needed to build up my stamina because I had a big trip coming up in April. So I had 1 year to rehab myself, go to the gym, get my ass in the gym, lose weight, and get my stamina up to be able to handle a trip with my parents for my 50th. That goal was met because I impressed myself. I walked downstairs. It was 10 days non-stop. 10 days non-stop. I kept up pretty well. So that goal was met. I have other goals in mind, but I've been told not to speak my goals in public because, you know, just keep it to myself. Because you start sharing your goals with people, and then, you know how some people are negative and all that stuff. So I just keep it to myself. So, yeah. That's the story of Danielle and all that shenanigans that I dealt with. Not fun, not pretty. But wherever she is, I hope she's doing well, and I just love her still, and will always remember her laugh. It filled an entire room. Man, I don't see the boys anymore, but I just wish them well, and I still love them very much. They were like my own. Yeah, I took care of them. Sometimes I would babysit and stuff. So. I miss them every day. Think about Danny every day. Just hope she's doing well up there. Yeah, and I wish whatever you're going through out there in YouTube land, I'm going to wish you the best, because I've been there. I've done that. I felt that. And there is hope. And there is hope. I need you to believe that. You need to believe that in order to survive. Because if you don't believe that, not even for 1 second, then it's all over. I need you to believe that it does get better. I seriously need you to believe that. I am not an influencer, but I'm influencing you to do that. I'm influencing you to believe in yourself enough to where you don't want to feel that nasty ever again. Or you don't want to feel that low ever again. I'm influencing you to become a better version of yourself that you ever thought possible. I need you to believe that. And if I can do it, if I can go throughout my other videos, and you haven't even heard all of it. I haven't even explained to you all of it. I mean, there's so much more I could tell. But if I could survive all that bullshit that you already heard already, and I'm here standing, well, I'm not standing, but I'm sitting in my car. If I can, wake up and want to accomplish my goals, and I see where I want to go, please know that you can too. There was a point in my life where trust me, I wanted to give up. I don't know how to explain it, but every fiber of my being just wanted to fucking give up. I just, okay, I'm done. I can't handle this shit no more. I want to be done. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't. But I got out of my marinating, and I got out of my little box I built for myself, and took a peek and be like, oh, well, maybe there's a better life down there. Maybe. I don't know. But get out of my little box, my little safety net that I built for myself. And I'm still peering them. They're like, huh, okay, well, I see you, and I see you, and I see you. Are you all old enough? Okay, maybe not all of you, but some of you old enough to remember Romper Room, where she held the mirror. I see you, and I see you, and I see you. I see you. And I see you. So, I see you. Stop the marinating. Stop it. Just cut the shit. Stop. Alright? Because you're pissing me off. So I think I'm going to end it right there. On a happy, positive note. I appreciate you oh so much. And I want you to know that just hang in there. Hang in there, Cookie. Okay, please. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for joining me again and again and again. If you're a frequent flyer, viewer, frequent flyer. A frequent flyer. Yeah, we'll just say that, a frequent flyer. So take care of you, and I will see you in the next vlog. So peace out.